On the morning of June 10th, 1991, a young girl made her daily trip up the small hill she lived on to her school bus stop. She looked forward to the day ahead dressed in her favorite pink outfit, the color she had carefully chosen earlier that morning. As she strolled along, a gray car gradually slowed down beside her. Little did she know that the innocent world she had grown up in was about to shatter in an instant. Hello and welcome to TTHL. Today we travel to the small rural town of Meyers, California, nestled just 6 miles south of beautiful South Lake Tahoe, where we will embark on a harrowing journey to reveal the incredible story of Jaycee, a young girl who faced unspeakable horrors, yet summoned an inner strength to survive against impossible odds. On June 10, 1991, 11-year-old Jayce Lee Dugard made her way up the hill to the school bus stop, just a short distance up the street from her house. As she walked along, a gray car slowed down as it came up beside her. She thought the driver surely needed directions and was ready to help, but the driver, Philip Garrido, did something unimaginable. He rolled down the car window and shocked Jaycee with a stun gun. She stumbled and fell to the ground, barely conscious. Then Garrido's wife, Nancy, grabbed Jaycee and dragged her into their car. She then removed Jaycee's clothes and wrapped her in a blanket and held her down as they drove for 3 hours to their property 120 miles away in Antioch, California. In addition, tragically, some of Jaycee's classmates witnessed her kidnapping as well. Within hours of Jaycee's vanishing, the local and national media in South Lake Tahoe jumped on the story. In a matter of days, local volunteers joined the hunt, tapping into every resource they could find in the community. They sent out tens of thousands of flyers and posters to businesses across the entire United States. They wrapped the town in pink ribbons, as pink was Jaycee's favorite color. It served as a reminder of her absence and a sign of support from her community. Terry Propin started a group called Jaycee's Hope. They took the reins in guiding the volunteers and fundraising. They even sold cassette tapes of a song called Jayce Lee, plus t-shirts, sweatshirts, and buttons to scrape together money for posters, postage, and printing in hopes of bringing Jaycee home. Child Quest International and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children pitched in too. This kidnapping case became a big deal all over the country and even got featured on the Fox TV show America's Most Wanted, airing only 4 days after the abduction on June 14, 1991. As the years rolled on, the community of Meyers never stopped working hard to raise awareness about Jaycee and child safety. They held fundraisers and candlelight vigils, all to make sure people never forgot about Jaycee and to keep her story in the public's eye. When the Garridos arrived with Jaycee at their home in Antioch, Jaycee's almost 2-decade nightmare continued. They took her behind their house where there was a collection of old tents and sheds. They put her in a tiny soundproof shed, handcuffed her, and warned her that attack dogs were waiting outside if she tried to escape. For a week she stayed handcuffed, only seeing Garrido, who would bring her fast food. She was only given a bucket to use as a bathroom. A week into Jaycee's captivity, Garrido demanded sex from the still handcuffed Jaycee for the first time and continued at least once a week for the first 3 years of her captivity. They kept her locked up, away from the world. They gave her a TV but blocked her from watching any news. Garrido would go on drug binges, then would force Jaycee into sickening situations. He insisted that she listen for what he said were voices in the walls, thinking he was a chosen servant of God. He cried, apologized, and then he threatened her, saying if she did not comply with his demands, he'd sell her to people who would cage her like an animal. It wasn't until 7 months into her captivity that Garrido's wife, Nancy, finally began to interact with Jaycee. In the beginning, she displayed kindness towards Jaycee, but as time passed, she grew just as twisted as her husband. Nancy's demeanor fluctuated between moments of motherly care and episodes of outright cruelty, often laying blame on Jaycee for her entire situation. The Garrido's neighbor had a brief meeting with Jaycee when she curiously looked through the fence in Garrido's yard shortly after her kidnapping. She introduced herself as Jaycee, and when asked if she lived there or was just visiting, she replied that she lived there. Garrido then emerged and promptly took her back inside. Shortly after her encounter with the neighbor, an 8-foot-tall fence was constructed around the backyard, and a tent was set up for Jaycee, marking her first outdoor access since the abduction. To further manipulate Jaycee, the Garridos gave her kittens on 2 occasions, which would later inexplicably disappear. When Garrido discovered that she had written her real name in a journal she kept about the kittens, she was forced to tear out the page containing her name. This was the last time she would be permitted to say or write her own name. Unbelievably, throughout her entire captivity, Jaycee was denied any access to medical or dental care. About 3 years into her captivity, the Garridos would take off Jaycee's handcuffs occasionally, but she was still kept locked in a bolted room. On Easter Sunday in 1994, almost 3 years into her captivity, they gave her cooked food for the first time, and they let her know that they believed that she was pregnant. Jaycee had watched TV shows about childbirth to prepare for the birth of her first daughter, which happened when she was just 14 years old, in August of 1994, only 3 years after her abduction. Jaycee's second daughter was born 6 years after her abduction when she was just 17 in November of 1997. She took care of her daughters using what she learned from TV, while also trying to protect them from Garrido, who continued his angry outburst and lectures. To cope with her ongoing captivity, Jaycee planted flowers in a garden and homeschooled her daughters. At one point, Garrido told Jaycee to call his wife Nancy their mother, and to make her daughters believe that Jaycee was their older sister. Garrido had a print shop where Jaycee was put to work as a graphic artist. When customers spoke with Jaycee, she did not mention her childhood abduction or her real identity. The customers even remarked about how they were impressed with her work. During this time, she had access to the business phone and an email account. Jaycee was seen in the Garrido household as well, and sometimes she'd answer the front door to talk to people, but never indicated she was in trouble or tried to escape for fear of retribution towards herself or her daughters. While Jaycee and her 2 daughters mostly kept to themselves, they were occasionally seen playing in the backyard behind the house where Jaycee's living area was. This private part of the yard had sheds, including a recording studio Garrido used for his singing, some homemade tents, and what's been described as a camping-style shower and a toilet. Tall trees and a 6-foot fence around Jaycee's private living area provided privacy, with an entrance that was covered by trees and a tarp. They used extension cords for electricity. Also, this was where the car that was used in the abduction was hidden. Garrido had been a convicted sex offender and was registered with the Federal Parole Board for both kidnapping and rape in 1976, several years before Jaycee's abduction in 1991. In 1999, California took over the responsibility of supervising his parole from the federal government. However, this transition prompted criticism of both federal and state law enforcement officials because despite parole officers making several visits to the Garridos' residence during this period, they failed to request an inspection of the backyard. In addition, the fact that the police did not realize Jaycee had been kidnapped near South Lake Tahoe, the same place where Garrido had committed the sex crime in 1976, 15 years prior to Jaycee's abduction, led to further criticism. In June 2002, 11 years after Jaycee's abduction, the Antioch Fire Department responded to a report of a child with a shoulder injury from a swimming pool at the Garridos' home, but they didn't tell the parole office. So there was never a record of a child or a pool at the Garridos' address. Then in 2006, 15 years after Jaycee's abduction, a neighbor of Garridos called 911 to say there were tents in the backyard, and kids were living there, and that Garrido was acting very oddly. A deputy sheriff talked to Garrido for about 30 minutes, and then left after telling Garrido that there might be a code violation if people were living outside on the property. So when Jaycee was finally discovered, the local Contra Costa sheriff issued an apology to the victims, and in November 2009, the California Office of the Inspector General reported that the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation had made mistakes that allowed Jaycee to remain captive. They found that Garrido had been wrongly classified as needing only low-level supervision, leading to all the other missed opportunities that may have brought Jaycee home. The Inspector General pointed out a case where a parole agent encountered a 12-year-old girl at the Garrido's home, but just accepted Garrido's explanation that she was his brother's daughter without checking it, even though a call to Garrido's brother could have verified that he did not have any children. On August 24, 2009, Garrido walked into the FBI office in San Francisco with a 4-page essay talking about religion and sexuality. He claimed he had found a way to fix his past criminal behavior and wanted to help other predators control their impulses. The essay suggested he had cured himself. On that same day, he took Jayce Dugard's 2 daughters to the University of California at Berkeley. He wanted permission for an event tied to what he called his God's Desire program. The woman to whom he had spoken with, Lisa Campbell, thought his behavior was strange, and the girls seemed quiet and obedient. She asked him to come back the next day, but made him leave his name. Allie Jacobs, a campus police officer, checked Garrido's background and found out that he was a registered sex offender on parole for kidnapping and rape. The next day, he showed up with the girls for their appointment. However, Officer Jacobs was there too. She noticed the girls looked pale, as if they'd been hidden away, and felt that their behavior seemed odd. Officer Jacobs decided Garrido had broken his parole conditions, so she left a message with the state of California's parole office about her worries. 2 parole agents went to Garrido's house. They cuffed Garrido, searched the place, and found his wife Nancy and his elderly mom at home. On his way to the parole office, Garrido said the girls who had accompanied him the day prior were relatives' daughters, and that he had permission to take them to Berkeley, even though his parole conditions specifically stated that he could not be around minors. In addition, Berkeley was 40 miles from his home, and he was only allowed to travel a radius of 25 miles without permission. Surprisingly, the parole agents didn't do anything about it. They reviewed his case with their boss, took him home, and told him to come back the next day to discuss his Berkeley visit and their concerns about the 2 girls. On August 26, 2009, Garrido went to the parole office in Concord, California, with Nancy, the 2 girls, and Jaycee, who was going by the name of Alyssa. The parole officer decided to talk to them separately. Jaycee, still pretending to be Alyssa, said the girls were her daughters. She knew Garrido was a sex offender, but claimed that he had changed and was a great person and good with her kids. When they pressed her for proof, she got defensive and agitated, claiming she was a battered wife from Minnesota, hiding from her abusive husband. The parole officer called the Concord police. When a police sergeant arrived, Garrido admitted he had kidnapped Jaycee and was the father of her 2 children. Only then did she finally reveal her real identity as Jayce Dugard. Garrido and his wife were arrested. Jaycee got on the phone with her mother, Terry Propin, with the help of an FBI agent. She was reunited with her children and her mom on August 27, 2009, 18 years after her abduction. On April 28, 2011, the Garridos pled guilty to kidnapping and rape by force. On June 2, 2011, Philip Garrido was sentenced to 431 years to life in prison, and Nancy Garrido was sentenced to 36 years to life, with the possibility of being up for parole in August of 2029. The Garridos were sent to different prisons. Philip Garrido was sent to the California State Prison in Corcoran, California, and Nancy Garrido was sent to the Central California Women's Facility in Chowchilla. Jaycee herself didn't go to the sentencing. She sent a message with her mother to read aloud in the court instead. In the days after Jaycee's return, her stepfather stated that Jaycee and her daughters were doing well, they were smart, and they were taking things one step at a time. He mentioned that Jaycee had a strong emotional connection with Garrido, and the girls were very upset when they found out about their biological father's arrest. Her aunt, Tina Dugard, said the daughters were clever, articulate, and curious kids. Ernie Allen from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children said Jaycee's return gave hope to families with missing kids, proving that even in long-term cases, hope can survive. Elizabeth Smart, who survived her own abduction, stressed the importance of focusing on the future with a positive attitude to cope with what's happened. Sean Hornbeck, another abduction survivor, mentioned that coming out of the trauma Jaycee endured was like stepping into a new world full of color. He also talked about life after being abducted, saying it's normal for survivors to feel angry and that therapy can help them move forward. 3 weeks after her release, Jaycee asked for pets that were raised in the Garridos house. In addition, Jaycee started an animal-assisted therapy with horses, something she shared with her mom Terry and her sister Shayna. People magazine published the first verified photo of Jaycee as an adult on its cover on October 14, 2009. Despite the horrors she had endured, Jayce Dugard found the strength to move forward and became an advocate for survivors of abduction and abuse, sharing her story to inspire others to never give up hope. The remarkable survival of Jayce Dugard serves as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Her story reminds us all that even in the darkest circumstances, resilience, hope, and the will to survive can conquer unimaginable challenges. Until next time, thank you for watching.